What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDoWorkHereLady. Okay, this story's called This Is My Painting. Okay, today I have my own story. If you've read another of my stories, you know that my wife works and owns a hobby store, and I paint landscapes on canvas. I always have to say canvas because some people don't seem to make the connection between painting and a canvas, and they ask if I'm into landscaping. Maybe I can see where they might think I do landscaping because I paint landscapes, but when I try to explain that I paint, they think I somehow paint the yard with plants. I don't know if that is a thing, maybe so, but I now always am careful to explain that I paint landscapes on canvas to try and head confusion off at the pass. So, on to my story. I was invited to create 5 or so paintings to be hung at a special event at a local art gallery. Other artists would be showing their work, and to expect that I could sell all my pieces. I paint almost exclusively on 18 by 24 canvases, and only paint on other sized canvases for a request or if I feel inspired by something. I live in the West Southwest, and there is never a shortage of things for me to find inspiration from. Also, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and so I have those memories to draw from as well. So I painted a greenish woodland scene, a swampy scene, a desert scene, a seascape and river scene with tall sandstone cliffs. The river scene is what this story is about, so I'll go into more detail about it. It is a faster moving river that begins in the top left quadrant of the canvas, winds down to the middle of the canvas, and loops back to the lower left quadrant. On the right-hand side are sandstone bluffs with some vegetation, and there is a spit of land that allows for the river to loop around on the left. That spit of land has trees, bushes, driftwood, rocks, what you would normally find along a river in the Pacific Northwest. However, the scene is more attuned to the southwest with the desert-like sandstone cliffs and rocks. The whole painting is truly a figment of my imagination, and parts got painted over and repainted a few times before I got what I wanted. This is important. I used Douglas fir trees on my spit of land, none of which grow in the southwest, and I used cacti to break up the rock on the right side. I also used huckleberry and rhododendron bushes on the spit, both native to the Pacific Northwest and can't be found in the southwest. This is also important. The painting is called Wandering. So, the day of the opening is at hand, and I never dress up much. For me, a pair of pressed pants, cowboy boots, a white shirt with a tie, and I'm all set. I'm 60-ish, and gravity has forced my body such that all the nice muscle in my shoulders has drooped down to around my waist. My wife still loves me, but I sometimes think she longs for the younger me. Most everyone else is dressed up, and that includes my wife, who loves the events as an excuse to dress to the nines. You ladies know what I mean. Long evening gown, matching clutch purse, matching high heels, hair all done up, 3 hours before the makeup mirror. Just kidding on the makeup mirror. I think it was only 2 hours and a quarter. We wandered around the different exhibits, and I marveled at the talent that is before me. It's hard for me to accept that I am any good, even when people tell me, because, well, it's just hard. My wife's siblings are always begging me for paintings to hang on their walls, but I try to put them off and let my wife decide. So I'm standing in front of Wandering and finding all the places where I think there is a mistake and how the lighting isn't quite right when this woman walks up to stand next to me.
Don't you hate it when the artist just finds some picture on the internet and copies it? I just saw this picture in a magazine in the airport not too long ago,
she said in a high nasal tone. I looked at her, and she too was done up to the nines with a glass of something bubbly in her hand. She looked to be in her 30s, but then I am a terrible judge of age. Her face looked like someone had smashed it in with a canoe paddle. Indeed, I asked.
Yeah, I see it everywhere. Artists nowadays have no imagination. They just copy.
This woman wore a dark blue pantsuit with a white blouse and probably stood 5'2" with an extra third grader around her waist. I'm not condemning her for having the equivalent of a third grader's weight around her waist. It's just an observation. And you're sure you saw this on a magazine cover somewhere? I asked.
Oh yes, I'm very sure of that.
The reason I ask is that if you notice, this is a southwestern scene, but there are elements in it that you would not find in the southwest. Like those trees and these bushes, I gently probed. She looked closer and said,
Oh no, I see those everywhere around here. I think I might even have some going in my own yard.
I thought to myself, she's delusional or high or tripping on LSD or something. Just then, my wife shows up and gives me my water as she sips her bubbly drink.
What do you think of the lighting?
She asks.
Maybe a little soft for this one. I'm not sure.
My wife went from facing the painting to facing me.
OP?
She started, grabbing my chin so that I was now looking at her.
Where are you?
Huh?
When you say you're not sure, that's my cue that you are far, far away in another galaxy.
Before I could answer, this other lady murmurs,
And this price? Where do these artists get that anybody's gonna pay that price for a copy of something else?
Katie's eyes got big around and her head cocked to one side as she looked around my shoulders at the woman on the other side of me.
You think it's overpriced, do you? Overpriced? A 10-year-old could make this. What does this artist do? Rip out pictures from magazines and then just copies them? Really, no imagination at all. There should be a law banning this kind of ineptitude,
the woman said with disgust in her voice. Katie seemed to falter, and then her eyes got big around, and I tried to shush her. It didn't work.
It just so happens that I know this artist, and I know for a fact he did not copy it from some magazine. The odds that there is a magazine out there with this picture in it are... You'd have a better chance of winning the lottery twice than you would finding a magazine with this between its folds.
The lady came around to face Katie, and as I've said before, Katie's 40-ish, but looks 20-ish.
I dare say, young lady, that you aren't even old enough to understand art, let alone tell me what I've seen and what I've not seen. And I dare say, young lady, that I'm probably older than you are, and I've seen more art in the last 20 years than you've seen in your entire lifetime. I've met more artists, more famous artists, and more up-and-coming artists than you'll ever know. When I say this is an original work, this is an original work.
Katie was starting to get fired up, and I didn't want the gallery owner to have to ask her to leave, which has happened before. My lady does like to defend her man. Just as the lady was about to retort something, another artist came up and said, Lady, there is no way you've seen this as some photograph in any magazine. There are elements here that just simply don't belong, and that is exactly why this cannot be a copy. Those trees don't belong, those bushes don't belong, and even the river itself doesn't belong. There is no river like that anywhere in the desert. All the rivers around us are slow and lazy, and this is fast and rushing. I think this artist must have been high on crack when he painted this. He gave me a very obscure nudge in the ribs when he said that last part, because we've admired each other's work and I have one of his paintings in my house, and he has one of my paintings in his house. The difference between us is that his paintings start at 6 figures and hang all over the world, and mine just don't.
You don't know what you're talking about,
the lady said.
You're just some hippie living in some commune who hopes to make a few bucks on the pity of someone else's hard work.
I couldn't help it. I laughed. I turned and looked at this woman and said, He, pointing to the guy that jumped to my rescue, has paintings in the White House. He has paintings in every major art museum in the US and parts of the world. He has a waiting list of a decade for his paintings. His house alone is probably worth more than what you will ever make in your lifetime. Although, to give her due credit, he did look like he probably lived in some commune high in the peaks. Writing this, I won't tell you his name, because I haven't asked him if I can include him in the story, while I'm sure he wouldn't mind. He likes stuff like this. I'd rather wait and update at a later day. So, this lady is again about to say something when the gallery owner comes over and puts a hand on my friend's shoulder and she asks,
Distinguished artist, how are we doing tonight? I am so glad that you decided to come up to the mountain and visit us.
The lady's mouth opened like the gape of a tunnel at the name dropping. I was just explaining to this lady how OP here could never have painted this from a photograph, as one just does not exist. She couldn't have seen this in a magazine, as the elements just don't exist in nature the way he's painted them. Laughing, gallery owner asked,
Do you remember, OP, about a couple of years ago? You had that one painting that had a coyote in the brush, and the limbs made it look like it had antlers. Oh, I remember that,
Katie said excitedly.
OP wanted to fix that and I wouldn't let him. Do you remember the man who swore that he's got coyotes with antlers running around his chicken farm?
Gallery owner asked. Distinguished artist looked at me and asked, Were you on drugs? He teases me about this even though he knows I'm seriously against that sort of thing. I mean, I don't even drink alcohol.
You didn't paint this,
the lady said lightly.
He sure did.
Katie jumped in, still excited.
I warned him from his blocking colors to his signature. I love to watch him paint.
I watched as the lady slinked off, and when she was gone, I asked gallery owner, who was that? Shaking her head from side to side, she said,
She's Bat Guano Crazy Karen who thinks she knows all there is to know about art and paintings, and she just trashes this artist and then that one just to get a kicks in. I don't know why I let her into these things. She never buys anything.
Well, I know this story didn't have that explosive ending you all clamor for, but it's one of the few Karen or near Karen stories I have. I sold all of my paintings, and the city bought one of distinguished artist paintings because, well, he is just superior at what he does, and they were discounted for the showing. When we got home, Katie just had to tell our daughter the whole story, and daughter said,
Isn't he always doing something like that? Putting in stuff that doesn't belong?
Katie gave me a look from the side of her face, and I said, That's how you can tell it never came from a photograph. Okay, this was a beautiful story. I love how OP just kind of stood there and let everything unfold to its greatest, most dramatic potential. I was half expecting Obama to show up and tell the artist guy, Hey, I had one of your paintings in my old house. No, that was a great story. I'd love to see paintings like that. I love landscapes, especially when they've got vivid sunrises or sunsets. Sunrises especially because, oh boy, sunsets are nice too, especially purpley ones. Alrighty, this story's called, An Old Lady Makes My Manager Think I'm Stealing. As my name suggests, I'm new. In fact, I only created this account to post the story. Quite a short story, so let's add some backstory to beef it up a little. Before the pandemic, I worked at a pub that had a restaurant and pokies, or slot room. Recently, we had a lot of issues with young people going around the building and causing mischief and stealing. But he worked mostly in the pokies area. On the days when he was already at work and I was starting around midday, I would always go in early to say hi and see how his kids were doing. And that's about where this story takes place. So I had just come through the back door about 30 to 45 minutes before I was scheduled to start, wearing my black pants and shirt with a gray hoodie over the top. I walked through the front bar area, checking to see what needed to be done for the day, while making my way to see my brother. I stood in the doorway about to say hello when I realized that they were dealing with a customer and talking to our manager about various things that I'm not quite sure of. I figured my time could be better spent waiting in the back room on my phone, as I still had plenty of time to talk to my brother and I wasn't sure how long their conversation was going to last. So anyway, I'm sitting in the back room, not even 30 seconds later, looking at the roster with my back towards everything, when my manager barges through the office door and yells, Oi, buddy! What in the hell do you think you're doing? Now, at this point, I jump around a bit frightened and say, "Oh, hi, manager. I was just looking at my shifts the week. What's the matter?" It turns out, when I stood behind them in the doorway, still wearing my hoodie, an old lady told my boss that there was a young, shady-looking kid behind the bar. I've never had the best flair when it comes to writing. I just wanted to share this story as it's the only one I have. Edit. For everyone wondering what happened afterwards, pretty much nothing. He just told me that he was about 5 seconds away from tackling me since he thought I was stealing. That was actually kind of a cute story. Oi, buddy! I love English people, dude. Alright, this story is called I Am Not 12 and I Don't Need Help! This story is rather short and very lighthearted. This is the first time I've ever posted, so please cut me some slack. So, some backstory. I'm 16, female, but I look quite young. You are young, buddy. Like, very young. You are very young, buddy. I'm 5'4", but I slouch, and I have a very childlike face. You are a child. Being 16, I felt it was time I got a job. Very responsible. Late last August, my best friend got me a job in the kitchen at a nearby restaurant. I am and was a dishwasher. That's sexist, if you're curious. And I was so excited to make my own money. Everything goes very, very well, and in no time, I start feeling right at home. It's common knowledge that there's a back door that leads directly into the kitchen. That's pretty universal for every restaurant. That being said, I don't like going in the back door. Something about seeing all the customers and waiters is nice, especially before a shift. It makes me feel like, yeah, I did that. Are you liking the clean dishes? I thought so. On this particular day, I did just that. I strolled into the restaurant via the front door and immediately came face to face with a customer. She starts staring at me. Not rudely, but like she's inspecting me. I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm in the back for a reason. I don't want to deal with customers. She walks up to me and, without missing a beat, says, "Are you 12? Are you looking for your mom?" I just don't know what to do. What do you do? I look at her, confused, and just say, "What?" At this point, she actually looks more confused than me. I tell her I am not 12 and that I'm 16 and that I work at that restaurant. She stares at me blankly, then says something along the lines of, "Oh," and I just kinda walked away afterward. Nothing dramatic, just a misunderstanding that made me self-conscious. A few weeks later, I pieced together that someone must have lost track of their 12-year-old daughter, asked for help, and that woman was trying to find her. My coworkers cracked up when I told them about this. I hope you enjoyed. I did! Wonderful story. But you should embrace your youthful appearance because guess what? When everyone's freaking 24 and looking 42, you'll be 42 looking 24. But don't ask me how you got to age 42 before everyone you know turned 24, because that's just like some space-age technology stuff that's infinity and beyond me. That was so cheesy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.